Okay. Well, welcome. I'm welcoming my son. I always say my wonderful son, and people would probably think that that's his first name is wonderful. And I've never had a different thought about him. So I thank God for that. And I just felt led to come on during this Father's Day weekend and just, um, hopefully offer some hope to some single moms in particular. Some single dads will probably benefit from this as well. Um, my husband, my son's father, transitioned about 30, a little over 30 years ago when my son was 7. And so we've been doing this pretty much ourselves with God. So first, I want to start with a letter that I wrote to him, or something like a letter. Um, I thought when you started college, I might move near that location out of support because we were doing life alone. You chose to attend locally, unselfish, which you might not be aware of. The idea of trying to get you back and forth to campus, the dorm, the trunk, all of that, overwhelming. You have shown such strength and courage that no child needs to endure. Now to have the experience of living under the same roof with you and my incredible daughter-in-law and 4 grandsugars, as we say, is God and who we are. Thank you for agreeing to do this with me. Now I have some questions for you. I'm not a worrier, and you've never, ever given me a reason to worry. You have not changed the narrative or the goalposts. So, unfortunately, too, I've been blessed to work in 3 different schools with you. Uh, Unbeknownst to you, it just happened. Part of God's plan to make sure that you were well and you were safe, because once a child ends up with only one parent, there's a whole nother dynamic that's added to the equation in terms of not creating a situation where you are feeling the possibility of another loss, of a caregiver of all things and of a parent. And so uh, I'll ask you a few questions. And I know that you and your dad, you were joined at the hip. I remember making salads for him. I would call him a rabbit. I'd make a salad and he'd come in the home from work and you would get 2 forks and the two of you would eat out of, as you remember, this big green bowl, right?
Mhm.
And so the unexpected thing happened. He transitioned, unbeknownst to us or himself that he would. He had a congenital heart condition. And unfortunately, we were living well, we were eating well, we were exercising, we were doing things that keep us well, and things happen. And the biggest challenge, or the greatest challenge in all of it, that I believe sustained us, is the relationship that we had with God already. So I never really leaned into the single mother role or idea of it. I remembered you at 7 or 8 years old, me teaching you how to wash your clothes. I remember taking you to the grocery store and you would have to pick out your meals and your lunch items because I had never even gone shopping without your dad. We did everything together. So here it was, just the two of us navigating through life together, and me having to help you to learn these skills. And even I remember teaching you how to make spaghetti in a microwave. So now here I am in the house with you, with your 4 children, and the youngest boy is 7 now. I haven't said this to you, and I'm watching, and I'm able to glean a little bit the difference of who you were at 7 and who you needed to be at 7 versus who he can be at 7, because he has not incurred the loss that you had incurred. And so, I applaud you. I applaud your leadership. I think you're doing an amazing job. And we're doing something that's unusual in the house together with you and your amazing wife and your 4 children. And God is at the center and is helping us to do what we need to do. God has been there all along in terms of me being able to be in schools with you, and God specifically telling me, and I'll get into this a little bit later, about your educational process and what you needed as a boy, and a young boy of color, and what you needed as it related to educational pursuits, what you needed to have access to. So, having said all that, here's my first question. Um, what was needed and not provided, and how did you get it?
Hmm. Um, okay. I I think the biggest thing for me was with um I think understanding my role, my own role in terms of whatever work I need to bring to the table, um, to bring forward whatever God's plans were for me or for whatever um I need to get to, whatever next level I need to get to. And I'll say that in the case of because we grew up in church. Um so a lot of and I think it was my child's version of an understanding of being hearing all these great stories in the Bible, these fantastical things that would happen, and thinking, okay, it's gonna all work out, and God's got me covered, and I'm chosen, and I'm special. All these different types of things, which I think I never felt the need to communicate on my end. That's what I thought because that's just how I thought everything worked. Um, I did not understand um, hard work ethic. That piece I did not understand, and that was I don't know if that's anybody's fault necessarily. I think it's just one of those things that my understanding was just what it was. And I was like, oh, okay, it'll just go the way, and then the next door and the next opportunity, and I'll just be ready for it when it happens. And I found out through some of my own choices that there were some things that I needed to bring to the table. There was more of my own, um, if you want to say it, hard work that I had to do, my own preparatory work I had to do ahead of time. Um, and I think some of that was through definitely my first career that I had, or my first like real job where I'm working like inside an office. Um, that gave me a lot of that. But I think some of the other places where it's kind of become a little bit more clear to me is anything that you don't get at home, you do get through whoever your parents put around you. And that's something I commend you for because of the people that you had around, the people that you had in place. Um, but yeah, still to answer the question, like there's not like a specific like glaring thing that I can say, oh, this should have happened or you should have done this or that. There's nothing glaring that comes out. It's just it and I've spent a little bit of time looking at this over the years as far as recognizing that my it was really my view of the world. You did a great job with looking at trying to put me around different things and different people. I think what I missed in being shown that, excuse me, was just how I don't know if the word is how rare these opportunities
Mm,
were.
mm,
I don't think I
mm,
realized that. I think that okay, being put around and you had us at, the Christian school first and the things that we were given there, how much ahead of the curve that was, this idea of excellence and all these different things. And I think a lot of it, for lack of a better way to say it, a lot of it I think I took for granted. Not I think. I did take it for granted. Um so I think if there's anything I could say is just more of a recognition of like, hey, this is above the norm because the and this is I don't feel good saying this, but it's almost like okay, excellence was the standard which was given to me. So if the excellence is the standard, I get to take whatever's normal for me for granted. You take whatever you get
mhm,
normally for granted.
mhm,
So that is something. So I had to kind of come back to what the basics were. I kind of had like a not literal prodigal son type of thing. I kind of have like a boomerang
Mhm.
type of effect. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. Yeah,
Mhm,
because I have no way of knowing how you processed everything. The challenge too was God was guiding me, and
mhm,
so I was getting the downloads and I was following through on what He told me to do. There's no way I could have crafted this the way that it turned out, and what we were exposed to, where we got to live, uncommon for a single
mhm,
person. The exposure. And even now, one of the things that came to me last week is the friends that you have
mhm.
because of the rooms that you were allowed to be in, and exponential. I don't know had your father been here that that might have been the path to take, very possibly because it mimics or it supports or it looks like how his path was. The private school in particular. And so I couldn't lean into, and I try not to lean into my limitations, especially when I'm serving. I lean more into uh, God when I'm serving than I probably do as it relates to what I might consider I want in life because I don't focus on that. Is how can I give my best? Because that's the purpose of your gift. It's not about pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Men will give to your bosom. Is you offering your gift to the best way that it will come back to you measured that way? It's not always about money. It's about serving and it's about knowing that you're God's friend. When you're his friend and you know that, you're no longer serving because now you can hear what he thinks, which is one of the things Dr. Miles Monroe had taught us. And so even in that, when I met him at an event and on in the staircase, I don't even know how we met in the stairwell. And I don't know what made him, other than God, say, hey, here's my son's number, have our sons be pen pals. So even that, but everything has been far and beyond and grateful and humbled by the whole journey and as it continues. So thank you for that. So next question, and you may have answered this already. What you wish was done differently or you do different for your children? Because I see the differences. I applaud the differences because it appears to me that you've taken what you gained from growing up and you seem to have a good, I want to say harmony because I don't believe in balance harmony. There seems to be a synchrony that happens as it relates to things that you didn't participate in life that you're able to offer them to participate because I think you do a good job of wisely telling them the benefits, the good and the bad of things, and allowing them to participate. So you're not shut them out of certain situations or activities because you're a man of faith. Because I think when I was raising you, it was, there were yeses and nos. So you've given them the opportunity to not only live within whatever their values are, because we can't give values, we can teach what values are. The children pick what they want from the buffet table of values. But it appears that you've given them the opportunity to really be who they are and to explore the things that they want to explore, at the same time supporting their gifts. So, again, what you wish was done differently or you do differently for your children.
Okay, so I'll say this. You were immensely supportive in following me in whatever I wanted to do. Um, I think the only thing I can say at all about what I wish was done was I just, and I do mean the word forced when I say this. I wish you forced me to take just one thing, and it wouldn't have mattered what it was, if it was piano lessons, if it was soccer camp, one thing that you put on me that I was going to do and that I was not going to be your best friend for it, that I was not going to like you for it. Just one thing. And the only reason I say that, again, part of it is also me looking at, like, I'm able to look at it now and say, oh, okay, I was the type where if again, back on what my interpretation was of the world, my interpretation was, oh, okay, so Beethoven's Beethoven because he just was born to do that, gifts, that type of thing. Um, and uh, Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, they just have that mind that works like that. They were just destined to be that type thing. And I think there is something to that, but again, I never got like, well, what do I bring to the table in terms of how I show up,
Mhm.
in terms of consistency? And I say that because for me, it was very easy for me to get frustrated and be like, well, it's okay because this isn't for me anyway. So I just have to stop doing this. And I would just kind of bounce to everything. And then you were very supportive. So you would get me like when I said, because I was on my Mighty Ducks kick, I was watching those movies back. Yeah. You
Yeah.
got me the hockey equipment, you got that, and I'm there doing the air hockey and the street hockey and all that with the rollerblades and stuff like that. You bought me that stuff. When it was time for basketball, you brought me the lacrosse equipment because the school was doing lacrosse. So you were there with me every step of the way, and that I always um can appreciate. I think the only time that I started thinking about the one thing as far as the forced is because then I look at my own children now, and then I do see some of the same patterns of, without it even being based in anything aside from just, this is frustrating, I just don't want to do this, let me pick something else, this is frustrating, I just don't want to do this, let me pick something else, and just bouncing around because they encounter resistance,
Mhm.
because I see how excited they can get when everything is going great, everything's going wonderful. But as soon as there's like a little bit of uphill, a little bit of a challenge, then we try to get off of that and try and pick the next easy thing. Um, so I think now, and it's the same as like you mentioned with my youngest, who's 7 now, even my oldest who's 17. I'm a bit different now
Mhm.
than I was 10 years ago.
Mhm.
Looking at what my oldest was when he was 7 and how that resonates with, how dad was when I was going when, I was 7. I see it completely differently now with looking at my current 7-year-old and thinking about, okay, what happens if I'm not here?
Mm.
Like, because the things that I think about, it used to just be, okay, I can't imagine him not being here or me not being here to, for lack of a better term, protect him, guide him, that kind of thing. But I'm almost on like the same wavelength, but like the other side of the coin, which is now looking forward of the potential of it, just more of a like a planning perspective. Okay, so what if I'm
Mhm.
not here? Before it used to be, oh my goodness, I can't imagine. Wouldn't even go
Mhm.
further than that. But now it's okay, how do I get them set up
Mhm.
way everything is good? Same as my conversations with my wife, it's that type of thinking process of, oh, okay, what do we do to ensure? So again, it really, all of it comes more towards that type of perspective, and that's why now I try to make it as though if I'm no longer here to have these conversations with them, I try to pass on things that I didn't get. And again, for me, like one of my biggest pitfalls, I think, is that I didn't just look at, oh, but what did I bring to the table? Did I do everything? Did I do my very best? Did I,
Mhm.
as they say, leave it all out on the field? And those are the things I try to give to my boys now, and my youngest, my daughter. But that it's essentially that's really the main thing I try to give them.
Mhm.
Um, be 100%. Um, make sure as well, make sure life doesn't just happen to you, because I think that was the thing in my you know ping pong, just like, oh, okay, well, I'll just go to the next thing and I'll go, oh, over here, over there, and then you just going with it. And there are some things which for me it's been more of like, okay, actually set a goal, set a plan, don't have dreams, to have whatever you think that you want to go to. If you are not supposed to do that, if God does not want you to do that, he will come get you. and
Right.
stop you from doing that.
Mhm.
But just because it just doesn't happen and
Right.
you put in minimal effort, then
Right.
that doesn't mean it's not for you. So those are the things, those types of concepts are the things I'm trying to give them to make sure that they have a plan, have a goal
Mhm.
instead of just a dream
Right.
that
Right.
they with no form to it.
That's right. That's good. That's really good. Yes, I'm trying not to laugh too hard.
Mhm,
You're gonna appreciate this. I don't know if I ever said this to you. I remember when you wanted to do hockey, and I knew what I thought I knew was that you didn't have the temperament for that. I think it's a very aggressive sport.
mhm,
But I also knew, okay, if I don't let him do this, he ends up in counseling one day because he was supposed to be the first black hockey player.
mhm,
then, then I have missed the mark because you were into the hockey, and so I did let you pursue that. The other thing, I knew that you had music in you, and I'm
okay,
not a person that's gonna force. That's just not my parenting style. It's just not. That's not who I am. And so I gave you the option. And the fortunate thing, when
mhm,
you became of age to receive uh, your grandmother's inheritance. Well, first of all, I think because you met this incredible young lady, your wife, whose family is musical. I think they play everything and they sing well. And so that again, the alignment. You took that money and you bought, I know you bought a keyboard, I think you bought a guitar and an amplifier, and you pretty much self-taught, I think with the help of a few other people. And so you're an incredible musician. Uh, when I come to the past the great room of the house and you're playing, it sounds just like I'm at a movie theater. And I've had to stop at times and say, hey, wait a minute. I thought you were watching a movie. So incredible gift that guess what? The gifts and callings are without repentance. God doesn't take the gift away from us. And so I'm glad that you were able to link into that and I know it's something that you enjoy. You're good at it. And I have an ear for music. I can't do anything else but other than determine that somebody sings well or plays well. So you are very, very good. So thank you. I'm glad that it was already in you. I didn't push it. Like I said, I'm not a person that forces. It doesn't matter what I see based on my gifting and my wisdom. That doesn't mean that I get to lean into it for somebody and make them feel uncomfortable because that's not what the gift is for. A gift is a gift. It's supposed to be something that somebody enjoys. So I'm not a person that's regretful. I do wish I had pushed that a little bit, but I don't feel any, I don't feel any hardship, any angst that I didn't. I'm glad that you got to it anyway. So I'm grateful for that. So thank you. And I think that was pretty much all I wanted to say about that. If not, it'll come back to me. So thank you.
mhm,
Um, benefits of your education. God told me where to put you. Uh, and I believe that it's evident that it's helped you to navigate life well or better and steward well. Um, one of the places that all of the places require tuition.
mhm,
I'm a person, I'm a former public educator. Is one of the things I've done. I've actually worked in private schools and Christian schools. Um, I had a mindset of I didn't believe that education needed to be paid for. Your dad had the ultimate education, private. Um, very intelligent man. I didn't think he was smarter than me, so that kind of supported me not believing that you needed to pay for an education. And then God, I think you were first grade, no, kindergarten when my OBGYN, his wife actually said to me, nutritionist, she said, she told me about this particular school. And it was at that time, I think it was $10,000 a year for kindergarten. And I thought to myself, well, something's wrong with her. I didn't know that it was apparently a prophetic word because it was years later that you ended up in that school, and then it was $15,000 a year. Now, again, I'm a person that you know what, if God said it, that settles it. And so there you were again, another school. The first started out Christian schools, and here was this private school that wasn't Christian. All the parents were doctors and lawyers. Um, there were five parents in the schools, 100 of us at the time, 100 families, and five of us were single parent homes. Maybe three to five were families of color. And here you were in this school, and because God said to me, He said, you didn't need the public school experience, and you didn't need to be in a school that had mostly female teachers, that you needed to be where there were male teachers or male representation, because part of the challenge was there was no male representation in your life other than at church. And that was very limited. I think people just felt that we had it together and didn't need anything. Um, we do know, I want to give a shout out to Eric. Eric knows who he is. He came into our lives, and that was a game changer and a great support and a great role model. And so we're grateful for that. Uh, and that came later. But being in this particular private school that had male leadership and a very high standard, once again excellence, I didn't know that I was trying to expose you to that. I knew i knew where you were supposed to be based on what God was saying to me. So that's how that all rolled out. So how did those educational rooms or spaces that you were in help you to navigate and steward your life moving forward, or where you are now?
Um, Again, similar to what I said before, I think I have a much deeper appreciation for it now, um, than I did at the time. Because again, it was after coming from the Christian school, which was, I would put that in between the private and public. It was definitely a step up from public. There's no question. Um, I think ultimately being able to see, you know, some of the, well, not even some, most of the children I grew up with, their parents were either doctors, lawyers, that type of thing, houses with multiple bedrooms in it, stuff that I'm like, oh, okay, this is like there's some other level here, um, which I was able to see, but somehow there still was an element that kind of like went below my radar, because again, I'm like, okay, this, because I'm in this space, so I will be in this space once I get out of school, type of thing. Um, I do think though some of it started to hit me a little bit once I went to public school, like the last 2 years. I
Mhm.
then got to see a lot of the things in terms of, you know, oh, okay, book I'm reading in 11th grade, junior year. Well, I read this in eighth grade
Mhm.
at my previous spot.
Mhm.
So there were just some things where it started, that's when it started to kind of sink in there like a little bit in terms of, oh, okay, so this was a leg up in terms of the education piece. Um, I do think that what it did serve me with though now was a little bit of perspective in terms of, even though my worldview piece was off in my opinion, I think in terms of my perspective and the way for me to present myself, I definitely knew how to do that in a more professional manner. Um, I knew how to show up differently. That definitely was the case. Um, and it's similar to some of the things that I noticed that my son is kind of going through with his um look at colleges versus him doing some of the things that he's been doing in like the real world, because he wants to do things like for film and for
Mhm.
TV and for music. He wants to do that. But through talking with him, there's certain things that he's able to see now at school, that at the colleges he's visited, where, for lack of a better term, he's kind of not impressed because he's already had this exposure. And once he said that, when we had this conversation a couple months ago, it started to kind of hit me a little bit that, like, oh, okay, because yeah, you've already been at this specific level, you've been doing these things already. And that's again why I said, okay, I can look at this and go, okay, I took it for granted, because I already knew that. But then after talking to him and hearing somebody else say it, it's like, oh, wait a minute. So I will say that again, being put in these spaces like ahead of time that you typically wouldn't go to. Like when I did do college for a little bit, and now looking back, I'm like, oh, that's right. That's what this was like. I was like, oh, this is
Mhm.
the big deal. Like, this is what everybody's so stressed about, and this is what. So for me, it definitely did take pretty much most of the edge off. I mean, I came from, and I don't know what typical private schools are like, but my private school that I was going to at the time, I would have on the occasion of every other night, maybe 3 hours worth of homework
Mhm,
per night, and that would be like with reading the types of like the history book like this, like almost needed to have two book bags for the amount of work. It was a lot of work, but it was to the point where we would say it like once we get to college, like this is gonna be
mhm,
easy. So I do think that that's definitely what it provided. Like you do like a lot of the hard work ahead of
mhm,
time.
mhm,
That way your choices in the future are easier.
mhm.
Now, again, that piece in the moment was still somewhat lost on me. It still didn't hit me how much of an advantage that was. Um, I definitely see it now. Like lack of kicking myself. If I had a time machine.
That's really good, and you know what? I'm grateful to hear what you gained from all of it and how it helps you to lead, and the importance, the thought that I didn't remember before was a father's perspective, which is
Mm,
how come we're doing what we're doing right now in this space, because fathers are so important. They are whatever uh, ability that a father has to offer to a child is a mother cannot do that. I've never considered myself a mother and a father. I've stayed in my lane as being hopefully the best mother that I know how to be and getting better at it, and hopefully a great Mima and just a great person in general. But you brought up so many of what I call the father's perspective that's so important. And it clearly shows that I didn't have the lane for that, the other things that you needed. In God's wisdom, Him knowing what you needed, had you placed in different educational environments to guess what? Get a perspective, number one, and a relationship with who He was as a father, and then move you into another space to get the benefit of male leadership in a private way. And then 10th grade, you said, hey, I want to come out of this private school. I said, okay. I didn't tell you I was headed back into the school system as a guidance counselor. So we ended up back. This was the third time we ended up in a space together. Nobody but God, because I never had uh, those goals in my life. I had a goal to go to college, and that was it. And so the rest is what God had already set up for me. Um, but again, just all of your takeaways, and then that's why we're here today. The hope is that somebody else can take something away from what was shared, and your authenticity, and your ability to really just be who you are, and unapologetically is what I see it as. And the gift of me being able to be in the house with you and watch the leadership, not with an eye of caution or concern, no judgment, no correction. I'm here. I'm your mother. I'm not parenting you anymore. I'm Mima. I'm fortunate. You have an amazing wife. The two of you manage very, very well. I get to babysit maybe 3 times a year because you don't need me in that capacity. I'm here to support. It was God speaking to me and me sharing with you and your wife, and it all came together. We're coming up on 5 years. I am an educator, former educator. I'm a psychotherapist. I'm a minister. I'm some other things. I don't need to mention what they are. And guess what? I don't need to use any of that to be in the house with you. And so I'm grateful for that. I can be me. And God said to me about 2 months ago, He said, Bae, BAE, which I'll teach on soon and do a YouTube. Um, he said, just be an example. I don't have to be
mm,
anything else. And I thank God because probably by the time you were 3 and you were able to separate your clothes for the laundry and you were able to put your toys away, I had the pleasure of really just following you through life, just learning what you needed and what worked for you, and being able to offer the support of what you needed. And that's the best thing that any parent can do for a child that comes into our lives, is to be there to support whatever their gift is. I say that often. Your gift is something you didn't train in, it's a gift God gave you to bring into this space. Your calling is where, and your purpose is what you're going to solve. And so I think that you're doing that. You're just an incredible person. I believe someone that had I met somewhere else, I would have connected with you. I probably would have told you, tell your mom if you're missing, you're with me. To
Mhm.
check with me. So thank you for coming into this space with me. And again, the hope is that we're able to offer some hope to those that are listening, and that they'll have takeaways and they will get the support that's needed. They will know how to reach out to me. I work with men and women. I do whatever I can do to help people to be happy in life. I knew that as a young girl, and so the hope is that this will benefit someone. So thank you, my wonderful son, and you continue to have an incredible day, and I'll see you around town. I love
Thank
you.
you. Love you too, mom.
All right.